Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to SIM Online Masterclass Series Season 2, and this is our second session. And the topic for today will be focused on entrepreneurship. Just a few house rules before I introduce the speaker for today. If you do have any questions along the way, please feel free to type your question out in the Q&A segment on the right-hand side of your browser. So whether you are in the Masterclass platform or the Open House platform, on your right-hand side, there is Ask Your Question tab. So you can just click open this and type your question inside, and we will answer the question. And Dr. Kelly, Dr. Ross, and our UOB staff, Birmingham staff, will assist to answer your questions. And if there's any other question that are not being answered or addressed during this session, you can always reach out to our inquiry booth and speak to our staff via the chat or video conferencing function. So I would like to introduce the speaker for today. Kelly is currently a senior lecturer in entrepreneurship in the Department of Management at Birmingham Business School, University of Birmingham. And she has worked with many universities and organizations in the field of enterprise and entrepreneurship. She has a strong interest in the use of learning technology and social media to support enterprise education and early stage business startup. She has published numerous journals and presentations on a range of topics evolving on enterprise education and entrepreneurship support. So without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Kelly Smith. Dr. Kelly, handing over to you.
Thank you. Oh my goodness, that's a big, that sounds really good. I like that. I know, but it's very hard to hear. So as June says, I'm Kelly Smith, Dr. Kelly Smith. Now, I've been lecturing in enterprise and entrepreneurship for many years now, but I've also helped students and graduates start up their own businesses. Probably hundreds of students and graduates start up their own businesses whilst they were still at university and up to 5 years afterwards. And I've worked with local governments in order to help them grow the local economy through the support of entrepreneurs. And one of the things that always came up is, with limited resources, how do you funnel those resources to the people who will succeed? How do you spot who is going to make an entrepreneur? And the answer is we don't know. When I started the job and needed to design the service, I went and did a lot of reading to find out, how do you know who will make the best entrepreneur? And it doesn't exist. We cannot predict. And when I was working with students, we had a mix of students, some who had come in very shy, very unassuming, very humble, with a fantastic business idea that they were passionate about. And we worked with them, and quite often that idea did succeed. And then we would get other students who looked like an entrepreneur, were very confident. You would really describe them as a risk taker, but their businesses didn't succeed. And then you would get others, of course, who very much look like an entrepreneur and did succeed. So it's very difficult to know what makes an entrepreneur and what makes a successful entrepreneurial business in advance. So the plan for this session is to introduce you to definitions of entrepreneurship, to discuss what are entrepreneurial attributes, because although we may not be able to predict who will become an entrepreneur, we can quite often see what they will look like when they are an entrepreneur or a business owner. We're going to explore the similarities and differences between entrepreneurs, business owner managers, and entrepreneurial employees. And we'll have a think about why someone might choose to become an entrepreneur. So hopefully, most of you, if not all of you, will recognise Elon Musk. Elon Musk is one of the classic entrepreneurial examples that we look at these days. And I want you to have a think. Why do you think Elon Musk is considered an entrepreneur? Why would you consider them an entrepreneur if you do? Or why do you think society considers Elon Musk to be an entrepreneur? So you might say, for example, he's an entrepreneur because he founded Tesla. Well, actually, he didn't found Tesla. He's named as a co-founder, but he joined a year after two other people actually founded Tesla as a company. He did have a huge influence in the Tesla company from that point on, but we can't say he's an entrepreneur because he founded Tesla. He didn't invent the technology behind Tesla cars. That was the two people who founded the company in the first place. Has he led Tesla to make a large profit? The answer is no. Tesla started in 2003, but only made its first profit in 2019, just last year. It does have a huge number of employees, but then we need to question what's the difference between an entrepreneurial company and a large global company? Are they different? Are they the same? We can say that Elon Musk has started up multiple companies. So he first started off a company called SIP2, which then became X.com. So SIP2 was a company which did maps for cities. X.com was a new type of online bank. And then X.com merged with another company, which became PayPal. Then Elon Musk moved to Tesla, and now he's setting up a number of different companies such as SpaceX. So he has been involved with either starting up or being involved at a very early stage with multiple companies. Now, here's another example of an entrepreneur. This is the Ernst & Young 2019 Entrepreneur of the Year in Singapore. Now, I would hope that a number of you may recognise this person, and they are Mr. David Lee, CEO of the Yono Media Group. Forgive me, I don't know how to actually say whether it's IUNO. Now, Ernst & Young are, again, a large global company. They have a whole number of different Entrepreneur of the Year competitions in each country. And each Entrepreneur of the Year competition uses a set of criteria. They judge their entrepreneur awards on entrepreneurial spirit, financial performance, or value creation. Now, value creation is a social enterprise proxy. It's an equivalent of financial performance. So how much value do you add into your community? They look at strategic direction, national and global impact. So Mr. David Lee's Media Group are a multinational company. They're in 20 locations, for example. They look at innovation. And perhaps interestingly, they look at personal integrity. Now, quite often when you think of an entrepreneur, you may not think of how much integrity they have, how honest they are. But actually that's seen in the research as a major element of a successful business. If you trust your leader, if you believe they mean what they say, you are more likely to follow them, and follow them to the best of your abilities. Here's another example, the OCBC Entrepreneur of the Year 2019, and again, another Singapore-based competition. I would suspect that fewer of you will recognise this individual, who is Ms. Rachel Wong May Kim, co-founder and managing director of the Marunda Utama Engineering company. Now, the company is a marine engineering company. They only have 20 employees or so, or they did when this award was made. But the OCBC recognised Rachel Wong because they said that that this award represents the need for entrepreneurs to be game changers who possess ambition, adaptability, foresight, and creativity to remain at the forefront of the future economy. So they are looking for people who are going to be game changers, to be creative. And in both awards, you can now start to see innovation being mentioned, creativity being mentioned, ambition, adaptability, integrity. So these are the kind of things we as a society start to believe in, that we want to see in our business leaders. So let's come on to some formal definitions of entrepreneurship, which again seems quite a simple thing. What is the definition of entrepreneurship? However, there are multiple definitions, and we as a community of researchers and educators haven't settled on one single definition of entrepreneurship, what it is. So I've given you two different definitions here. One is a very classic definition from Schumpeter in 1928. The essence of entrepreneurship lies in the perception and exploitation of new opportunities in the realm of business. It always has to do with bringing about a different use of national resources, in that they are withdrawn from the traditional employ and subjected to new combinations. So within there you can start to see again that the idea of innovation, taking things from their traditional use and innovating, being creative and coming up with new combinations, although the word innovation isn't actually used in that definition. A more recent definition from Besant and Tidd, the powerful mixture of energy, vision, passion, commitment, judgment and risk-taking, which provides the motive power behind the innovation process. So again, innovation is very much there, but Besant and Tidd start to bringing more about the individual, the personality of the entrepreneur. Now, I think for me, it's quite useful to consider differences between different types of business owners. And this is a model that was proposed by Hornaday in 1990. And Hornaday said you can separate out business owners into three broad types. You have the entrepreneur, whose primary focus is pursuing personal wealth. And I think a modern analogy to this in the social enterprise environment is a social entrepreneur whose primary focus is pursuing value for their community, to make changes in their community. Now, Hornaday also says you have a professional manager. They could be, they are a business owner, but their primary focus, where they get their buzz, is building an organization. So it's not personal wealth, it's about having their name on a company. You also have a craftsman, and this is someone, for example, an artist or a master baker, somebody who's practicing a trade, a craft or an occupation, and that's what they want to do. They want to be an artist. And then you get various combinations, and if you are somebody who is an entrepreneur interested in personal wealth, a professional manager who wants to build an organization, and somebody who is a craftsman practicing a trade, craft and occupation, then you'll be given the label business owner rather than entrepreneur, for example. I would argue we all have the capacity to be enterprising individuals. We may not choose to be an entrepreneur, but we can be entrepreneurial. So an enterprising individual has a positive, flexible and adaptable disposition towards change, seeing it as an opportunity rather than a problem. To see this in this way, they have a security born of self-confidence and is at ease with dealing with insecurity, risks, difficulty and the unknown. They have the capacity to initiate creative ideas, develop them, and see them through into action in a determined manner. They are able, even anxious, to take responsibility and are an effective communicator, negotiator, influencer, planner, and organizer. They are active, confident, purposeful, not passive, uncertain, and dependent. Now, I want you to take a minute and have a look at that and think, do you see yourself in that description? Or if you don't see yourself in that description yet, is it something you would like to aspire to? And so I'm just going to move on. Because if you are an enterprising individual, and if you can see yourself in that description or want to see yourself in this description, then you may be interested in the term intrapreneurship. So this is the application of enterprise behaviours, attributes and skills within an existing micro or small business, corporate or public sector organisation. So both entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs require skills and behaviours as well as business knowledge, business behaviours and business skills that are specific to the particular context they're sat in. So you might be sitting there in employment thinking, I like this idea. I would like to be an intrapreneur. I can be entrepreneurial. I can be creative. I can be innovative within my own company. So, question for you. What skills, attributes or behaviours do you think an entrepreneur needs to have? So hopefully you're now thinking all various terms, thinking about Elon Musk, for example, thinking about Mr. David Lee, for example. What skills, attributes or behaviours do you think an entrepreneur should have? So I'm now going to go on and give you some examples from literature. So if we think about entrepreneurial skills, the kind of things we're talking about here are creative problem solving, negotiating, strategic thinking, and a really important one is the ability to network. If we think about entrepreneurial attributes, we're thinking about self-confidence and self-belief, having the need for autonomy, a high internal locus of control. You are the master of your own destiny. Action orientating, actually wanting to do things, not just think about them. Being hardworking, being determined, being creative. And if we think about entrepreneurial behaviours, this is where you are able to solve problems creatively, taking initiative, putting things together creatively and seeing things through. Now, if you're interested, and I'll give you a link, I think on the next slide. Yes, there's a link on the next slide. There is a psychometric measure called the GET test. Now, the GET test stands for General Measure of Entrepreneurial Tendency. It was developed in the 1980s by two academics, very much based on academic research. And they created this survey, this test, based on academic literature. They created some statements based on this literature. They then made sure that the questions they developed were valid and reliable. So that means valid means they actually measured what you think they should measure, and reliable means that if you repeat the test, you get the same results. So it's a useful test. Now, entrepreneurs are not the only group of people who have enterprising characteristics, but they are generally more enterprising than other occupational groups using this particular test. And because it can help describe entrepreneurial behaviours, it's used very much in the UK, at least in enterprise education, and with groups of entrepreneurs to help them explore what they feel about their entrepreneurial attributes. So the Get2 test measures 5 key elements: need for achievement, need for autonomy, creative tendency, internal locus of control, and calculated risk taking. And I'll describe each of these in more detail on the next set of slides. So if you are interested in taking this test for yourself, the link you can go to is www.get2test.net, or if you search for the Get2 test, it should come up for you. So what is need for achievement? Now, as I go through these slides, again, I want you to kind of think how you feel about your response to what I'm reading out and what you're seeing on the screen. Do you think you are that kind of person? Could you potentially be an entrepreneur? Could you be an intrapreneur? So, need for achievement. The enterprising person is highly motivated, energetic, and has the capacity for hard work. They are busy, driven, dynamic, and highly committed to getting things done. Their high motivation levels are characterized by a high need for achievement, manifesting as the desire to lead, shape, and complete, complete projects. So are you the kind of person who has the desire to lead, shape and complete projects? Is your manager the kind of person who has the desire to lead, shape and complete projects? Is the CEO or the founder of the business you're working for showing the desire to lead, shape or complete projects? Or do you have another role model who you can say, yes, they have a high need for achievement? The second of the Get To test elements is need for autonomy. So here, the enterprising person is highly motivated, energetic, likes to lead, shape and do things their way. They are independent, driven, dynamic, and may have to be number one or work solo. So you'll see this is related to the previous one, as we're still talking about motivated and energetic, liking to lead, shape. But here it's to do things their way. The emphasis is on the fact that people with a high need for autonomy quite often like to be the person in control. They like to be the one. They like to control their own work. Creative tendency. The enterprising person is restless with ideas, has an imaginative approach to solving problems, and tends to see life in a different way to others. Their innovative tendency and need for achievement helps them to develop ideas to create new products and processes. For example, new technologies, new businesses, new projects, new organizations. They're interested in comedy or artistic outputs, for example. So again, have a think about yourself. Do you find yourself thinking, I could do this better? I could do this a different way. If only we did things slightly differently, it would be better. Internal locus of control is where the enterprising person has an internal rather than an external locus of control, which means that they believe you have control over their own destiny and you make your own luck. This means they confidently seek to exert control over life, draw on inner resources and believe that it is down to them if they succeed through their own efforts and hard work. Luck doesn't have, kind of things don't come to you. Luck is mentioned in there, but luck kind of implies that the external world looks down on you, thinks you're wonderful and gives you good things. If you have an internal locus of control, you don't believe that. You don't believe the world will just make life good for you. You believe you have to take control and drive your own destiny. And then the final of the 5 elements is calculated risk taking. So here the enterprising person is opportunistic and seeks information and expertise to evaluate if it's worth pursuing the opportunity, which will usually involve some risk. Now, for me, this is a really interesting topic, and I've had lots of conversations with students and entrepreneurs across over the years about what exactly is risk-taking. Because it kind of feels like when we think of an entrepreneur, and the classic ideas around entrepreneurship say that entrepreneurs take risks. They engage in risky behavior. But the research and my experience from working with a lot of entrepreneurs is entrepreneurs are actually not very risk-taking. What they do is they do take risks, but they take calculated risks, or at least the successful entrepreneurs take calculated risks. And once you explore how risky a behavior is, and you look to mitigate, you look to put things in place to reduce that risk, well, then it is reduced. It's not as risky. So if you look at an entrepreneur and you think, my goodness, that's risky behavior, quite often what they've done is they've explored it, they've managed it, they've calculated how they can reduce the actual risk. So although it may look risky to us, to them, they know it's within their skill set. They know it's within the skill set of their team. And it's not as risky as it may look. So I would encourage you to consider, when you're looking at entrepreneurs and looking at entrepreneurship, to think about calculated risk rather than risk on its own. This is the kind of result you'll get with a narrative if you do the Get To test. This is a real example of my own scores on the Get2 test. As I say, in the UK, the Get2 test is used quite often with students to help them explore their entrepreneurial tendencies. And some of the courses I've run are specifically wholly designed for potential entrepreneurs, 18-year-olds who have decided they want to start up their own business. And we all do the Get2 test, we all do it together, and then we all compare our scores. Usually my score's the highest, but I'm not an entrepreneur. And this is actually one of the things that was found by Caird, who designed the Get2 test. When they used the Get2 test with various occupations, entrepreneurs tended to score the highest, but educators were a very, very close second. Now, students are, and my students have been entrepreneurs to be. They need to develop their entrepreneurial capabilities. They need to understand calculated risk, for example, in order to use it to their best potential. Most of the students and graduates I work with at the beginning don't consider themselves to have very much creativity. They struggle to innovate or to see where innovations can happen, but over time that can be developed. So the Get2 test is not a set. It doesn't say if you score 60% or if you score 30%, you cannot be an entrepreneur. What it allows you to do is reflect on your skills, your attributes and behaviours, and look to develop them so that you can become what you want to be and be a successful business owner or entrepreneur. So here I am. I have a very high Get2 test. Apparently, I am extremely entrepreneurial. Why am I not an entrepreneur? And which brings us on here now to what's called the intentions model of entrepreneurial potential. So this is a model put forward by Norris Kruger in 1995. Again, somebody who's worked extensively with entrepreneurs. And Kruger argues that the potential to become an entrepreneur and exhibit entrepreneurial behaviour is dependent on a number of different elements, such as personal desirability. Do you wish to become an entrepreneur? Perceived social norms. What does your society, what does your community say about entrepreneurs? Now, not all societies think positively about entrepreneurs. Some societies are quite negative. What does your family think about you becoming an entrepreneur, for example? Perceived self-efficacy. So self-efficacy is the confidence you have in doing something. So in this context, how much do you believe you can become an entrepreneur? You have the skills to do that. So personal desirability and perceived social norms lead to perceived desirability. So if you want to become an entrepreneur, and if your family are supportive in entrepreneur, that will increase how desirable entrepreneurship is to you as an individual. If you believe and you're self-confident in that you can become an entrepreneur and you have the skills, behaviours and attributes to do so, that will increase the perceived feasibility. Yes, I can do that. So your desirability, your rating of the feasibility, and how much you actually want to act, your propensity to act, will then influence your entrepreneurial intention. And if you have a high entrepreneurial intention, it means it gives you a higher potential of becoming an entrepreneur. But that doesn't mean to say you will. So a large number of young people, for example, are quite happy to think in the future, I will become an entrepreneur. I want to run my own business. Most of them don't. So young people will think, I want to be an entrepreneur. I can be an entrepreneur in the future. So what makes them actually then convert from thinking, I can do this, I want to do this, into actual action, to actually behaving as an entrepreneur and starting up a business? And Kruger argues that you need what he calls a precipitating event, some form of displacement. So something needs to happen to you in order to move from, yes, I could potentially do it, to I will and I'm going to, and here's my business I've started. So a precipitating event could be redundancy, for example. It could be you have a windfall, somebody, you win the lottery and you suddenly have a lot of money and you think, now I can put my ideas into action. So you can have both positive and negative precipitating events. It may be that you're just sitting at your computer one day, working hard, and you think, no, this is my time. I am now going to start up my business. But of course, being entrepreneurial means you can also put your ideas into action within employment. So you don't need necessarily to have a precipitating event which makes you then start up your own business to still be entrepreneurial. You can use all of your skills, attributes, behaviors, and all of your passion, your drive, your enthusiasm to not only take your own ideas forward into your own business, but to take ideas forward to the benefit of the company you're working for. Okay, so that is all I wanted to say. I've hopefully given sufficient time for questions. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen and hand back to the next speaker.
Thank you, Kelly. And is there any questions that you guys have regarding the masterclass, the topic that Kelly has shared? Please feel free to put it in the chat, not in the chat, sorry, in the Q&A section on the platform. Meanwhile, I'm going to introduce the next speaker, Dr. Rosalind Jones. So similarly, Dr. Rosalind, she is the lecturer in marketing and the director for UB MBA programs. She has more than 13 years of business and operations experience as a civil servant in project management, change management, stakeholder management, and strategic marketing. And she has published numerous books and journal articles in sectors such as oil and gas, tourism, and agriculture. She is also involved in projects with Quantum Technology Hub, which she will share a little bit about. She's involved in this project. If you are interested to share a little bit more about it later, you can do so. Dr. Ross will take over for the next 10 to 15 minutes to share with you about the MBA program. So Dr. Ross, over to you.
Thank you very much, June, and thank you very much, Kelly Smith. I really enjoyed that masterclass, and Kelly is a shining example of a sort of quality of teaching and facilitation, if you like, of developing yourself during your MBA. So I also study entrepreneurship, and some of those points that are made and some of those models are really useful to sort of, examine yourself and maybe change your own viewpoint. And for my own self, I think I've become more entrepreneurial because I've been studying high growth companies, and it almost rubs off on you, I think. So I've definitely changed. Anyway, I can see we've got over 40 people here, which is fantastic. And thank you for being here. I shall just share my screen. A minute. Hang on a minute, everybody.
Yeah, sure.
Just trying to find my share screen, it's disappeared. Sorry folks, I can't find this share screen now.
Is your screen being minimized, Ross?
I've just realised that. There we go.
Okay, great.
There we go. There we go. I got it on minimum. Righto, so what I'm going to talk about today. So I'm the director of the MBA programs, and so we have several programs including Singapore, and I'm the director of the Singapore program, which I'm delighted to be, having been out in Singapore on many occasions and taught at SIM a lot. Okay, so it's a part-time program, and you have between 2 years and a maximum of 4 years to actually cover the program. So there is built-in flexibility for you because we know that you're very busy executives. So our program is really excellent because we use our own flying faculty, as we call them. Okay, so you have administrative assistants at SIM, and also we have a very small but excellent MBA team. So the support you get is very personalised, and you will know your learning and teaching officer in Birmingham who works closely with me, and also the SIM team as well that you meet here. Okay, so that support is really important. Modules are delivered intensively over a week at one time, okay? And the structure of the programme is that you have one module and that's delivered every 2 months, okay? So you'd start on a Monday, and you start at 7 p.m. till 10:15 p.m. and you go Monday to Friday in that block week, and then straight away on that Saturday and Sunday to complete the delivery of that complete module. Now, at the moment, we are delivering this online until the Singapore government allow the university to open again. And this pattern is exactly the same. And we do all of this online, and we have breakouts and networking online at the moment. The only difference is a slight shift in time on the Saturday and Sunday, because obviously in the UK, our lecturers would be having to get up in the middle of the night. So it shifted on a little, but actually I think it's rather good because you'd be starting in the afternoon, which gives you the morning perhaps with family and friends. So very little change there. And we're moving to bimodal delivery and synergistic teaching. So it's a really good experience. And because we have a distance learning MBA as well, we always have so much information and background that we can use to train everybody that's involved in our programs to a very high level in delivering teaching digitally. Okay, so the MBA modules that you have, you start with compulsory core modules, and there are 6 of those. So you can see there's accounting and finance and strategy, international business, organizational behavior and human resource management, operations management, and marketing. So these are the core aspects that you need for your MBA. And then you have a selection. Now these are subject to change, but generally they don't change very often. And we try to secure that, particularly for Singapore students. So we have corporate finance, business and society, entrepreneurship and innovation, service operations management, so that could help you if you're in a services environment, marketing strategy, so building on your core modules, management of change, which you can imagine now is really becoming increasingly important, directing strategy, implementing strategies and managing change, advanced leadership, that's a very popular module with our students, and project management, again, really, really important, particularly at these times. And I must note that the accounting and finance is an examinable module. So there aren't very many exams on this program, but we'll talk about that later on. There's also a dissertation of 10,000 to 12,000 words, which sounds like a lot, but actually as a student, you'll find it's easier to have more time and more word count to do that. And you can often focus on a company of your choice, perhaps the way you're working, so that you can create some very valid findings that are useful for your company that you work for, or perhaps you have your own business. Okay, and then you'll be given somebody who's got some expertise in the area that you're looking at to help support that. So one of the most fascinating and valuable things about our MBA is it's called a one MBA. And this means that the same program is taught in the UK and in Singapore and online. So what we offer our students is flexibility So it could be that you fancy coming over to the UK to study. So you can take up to 3 modules from these other programs, and it's all part of the one MBA package. So this does happen, and I've met some students from Singapore who've come over here and vice versa. And the fee paid is the same. So it doesn't cost you any more to make any adaptations to this. Okay, but of course it doesn't include the airfare or accommodation, visa fees or living expenses, but we can help and advise on that. And in the UK, we have a really beautiful hotel that's part of the university where you can stay, and really nice campus, so as well as SIM. So something you might consider. So here we've got some photographs of the University of Birmingham and the students and the networking. And I can see in the middle of the picture of the screen here, this is Pete Foss, who's just been teaching organisational behaviour and HRM. And he's actually in the United States and teaches for us from there, or flies over. Okay, so these are a few photographs of the sorts of things that you will facilitate in. So one of the most important things is to have a really strong alumni. So the MBA has been going for a very, very long time in Birmingham, and for considerable time in SIM now. And it's really important that you network. So we have lots of networking events that you network with other peers in different companies, but also with alumni. And this would occur also in Singapore. So these are the sorts of things we'll be doing and that I will be hosting with SIM with you. And here you can see some events that have been held in the UK. Down here, I recognise this building in the middle of the university campus. And also up here, we have other students networking events in SIM. And in the centre here is Kathy Cassell, Professor Kathy Cassell. She's our Dean of the Business School. And she's a really good leader. And I think Kelly would agree, has very good personality skill, very personable person, and leads us in a really calm and efficient but effective way. And she will also come out. So when we have graduation and special events, our head of college and our dean also come out to see you and see the students. So down here you can see our college head, and he's Professor Richard Black, another nice chap. And here is Derek Condon, who is my predecessor, who's just recently retired, but is still working with us at the business school and will be coming out to teach as well. And also you can see lots of the other module leaders here who've been teaching out here. And here are the students on the right, waiting for their graduation. So one of the most exciting things, of course, here is the performance of students is so very good. And I think it's because we have a very secure selection process. It's really important for the quality of our MBA that we take the very best students. So we have a very rigorous selection criteria. And that means that your MBA becomes more valuable to you the higher up the rankings we go, because we are a very highly ranked MBA program, which I'll talk to you about in a minute. So the degree that you actually receive is exactly the same as whether you're on our home campus or not. So it doesn't say part-time on it or anything like that. It's just the University of Birmingham MBA degree. So graduation is held in July and December in Birmingham, postgraduate graduation ceremonies, and in November and SIM as well. So we would be in attendance there in both events. And it's always very lovely with family and friends joining us. It's really enjoyable. So what we'd like from yourselves, if you're interested in applying, is a good degree. The UK equivalent is a 2-1 in a relevant business and management subject, combined with at least 3 years post-qualification of managerial and supervisory work experience. Or perhaps you've got the good degree or equivalent with at least 5 years of relevant post-qualification experience. Or sometimes we consider equivalent professional qualifications without the degree, and any of the qualifications and experience will be subjected to the approval of the University of Birmingham. So there are no exemptions to this because it has to go through a very rigorous criteria. But what we do is interview. So sometimes we might interview, just good to meet you and see how much experience you have. So if you have substantial work experience, that really counts for a lot as well. So Don't be put off by any of that selection criteria. If you're unsure, do ask the SIM team, and they'll be able to advise you. Okay. So English proficiency requirements is obviously pretty important. You need a minimum of C6 passed English as a first language at O level, or an IELTS of 6.5, at least 6.0 in each band, or a TOEFL IBT 88, which is 21 in reading, 20 in listening, 22 in speaking, and 21 in writing, or a Pearson academic test of English 59 in all 4 skills. So again, check with the SIM team as to what's required, and you can make preliminary inquiries. Okay. So in terms of enrolment, we have different enrolment times. So January 2021, and then March, and July and September. These are the enrolment times. So it might be worth considering when would be a good time for you. And you can see the application closing dates there for each of these intakes. Okay, so December, February, June and August. So at the moment, the application status for January and March are open. So if you are interested, it does take time sometimes to make the checks and to do all the forms that need to be done and get students on the system. So the sooner you apply, the better. And if you're interested in later dates, keep an eye on the SIM website, and that will help you there. So the program fees are 36,000 Singaporean dollars, and each module is payable before the module commences. Okay, so you pay per each module. So it's 3,022 Singaporean dollars, and all fees include textbooks and your exam and the prevailing GST, and they are payable 4 days before the commencement of each module. Students are expected to bring their notebooks to access materials during class, but they're also, all of the course materials will be online, and we have what we call Canvas VLE, which is a Canvas virtual learning environment, and everything that you need will be on there for you to access. Okay, there should be at least 2 weeks before the module commences. So I thought we'd show you this, which is really interesting to see the types of people that join us. So you can see manufacturing, 19% of our students, public sector education, 6%, so food and beverage, 4%, banking and finance, 10%, technology, 11%. So you can see the varied groups we have of expertise, and it's really useful for you because part of your experience on the MBA is to actually share knowledge between different industry sectors as well. So that's really helpful. The average age is above 30 because you've obviously got to have some business experience. I have had people ask me, you know, I'm in my 50s, am I too old? Absolutely not. We have quite a few students who are in their 50s, and quite a few have joined us recently simply because obviously with COVID and lockdown, they've been unable to fly around the world, but have always wanted to do an MBA. So suddenly we've got people that have waited a very long time to do this, having that opportunity. So we are getting some amazing, amazing students with us. So the average work experience is actually 10 years, and we've got people at 20, 25 years senior management experience. Okay? So a GMAT score is not required for the application process. So this gives you an indication of the sort of, I'd say this looks like a branding slide to me, but the alumni profile of all those people that join us. And so all the discussion and learning that you'll have, because there'll be a lot of group work within your modules, you'll learn so much from other people's experiences in these companies. So you can see the type of people to join us. Sometimes people are company sponsored, and sometimes they are individually paying for this themselves. So as well as the MBA, we also have a range of other Master of Science management programs. We have the MSc International Business, the MSc Management, Entrepreneurship and Innovation, Master of Science Management, Organisational Leadership and Change, and the Master of Science Management Strategy. So if you're interested instead in one of those programs, please talk to SIM about that. It's a 1-year full-time duration. Okay, it's 12 modules plus a dissertation. Again, all the module materials are online. And the modular delivery is 1 or 2 modules delivered monthly. And every module is covered in a week. Again, we call that block taught. Okay, Monday to Friday, 8:30 till 3 p.m. So 6 hours daily of lecture and group activities. For those of you that don't want to do something part-time instead of study, then this might be an option for you. And the lecture period is October to May. And again, it's taught by flying faculty from the University of Birmingham, so Birmingham academics. And again, there's a dissertation of between 10 and 12,000 words on a related topic. And again, supervised by Birmingham academics. And research workshops to support that. So your dissertation then follows through from having done your modules. So once you've completed your modules, you then move on to your dissertation, which is over the summer, so June to September. Okay, so there are exams, coursework, or a combination. What we do is something we call variation in teaching and learning practice, and it really helps students learn in different ways. So really gives you an opportunity to have different learning experiences. So a little more about the International Business Programme, open to graduates from any discipline who aspires to be equipped with a comprehensive understanding of relevant and current international issues. So we are a very big business school, and we have a lot of information there that will help you develop internationally in your expertise. We have MSc Management to help you develop skills and take you forward. Perhaps you're at a junior management role, and something you'll learn greater skills and analysis skills to enable you to have the language of an MBA and to be able to cope in a higher up the rankings in the organisation. And it will help you as a leader and to drive businesses. Okay. MSc Management, Entrepreneurship and Innovation. We've had a touch of that this morning about the research that we know, that we learn from, that helps develop our students. And this really helps you in terms of you becoming an entrepreneurial leader, okay, taking people with you and using your own drive to build a very proactive organisation. Okay. Also helpful if you actually want to start your own business. MSc Management, Organisational Leadership and Change. In this programme, you can gain specialised knowledge and master skills in sustainable leadership, crisis management, becoming ever so more important, and developing resilience against emerging organisational issues and threats and more. So also, finally, the MSc Management Strategy. You learn how to develop strong strategic plans for organisations to function at a competitive level. So those are the different options available. So if you're interested to find out more about Birmingham postgraduate programmes, please contact SIM staff, Catherine Lynn, Pine, Fee, Hong. Okay, so the 2 ladies' details are there, and you can look at the information on the programme below. Try to move it, it's not moving to my little screen thing there. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you,
Any
Ross.
questions? You're welcome.
Yes,
Would you like?
We do have a question. So Tan In Sun Su was asking, how much prior knowledge of accountancy is required for Birmingham Business School's MBA program?
I think that's a really good question. What we do on the MBA is it's accounting for managers. Okay, so we're assuming you may have no knowledge of accounting. So some people may be accountants already, and so they'll walk the module, they'll understand it fully. Some people won't. It's more about the application of that understanding to a business context. And I speak from the heart on this one, having done an MBA myself, an executive MBA, some years ago. And I was quite scared of that module, but I really enjoyed it because actually it's about the application in the context of perhaps where you're working. So very interesting. I hope that answers.
Yeah, so actually we don't have that much question on the ground. So any more questions, guys, please just type it out in the chat, in the Q&A session. For the open house platform, it says ask your questions here. So you can just type it out over there. And for the masterclass platform, you can just put as live Q&A. So once you type it over there, we will be able to see it and we will answer accordingly.
June, would you like me to stop screen sharing or?
Yes, yes, you can stop that. And of course, if at any point of time, let's say, you know, there's a question suddenly pop up after the session, you can still reach out to us. We have our inquiry hotlines and etc. And another alternative is you can also go to the open house platform and chat with our program specialists from SIM as well about any program, whether it be the MBA or full-time master programs under UOB. Yeah. So
yeah, and thank you very much for everybody attending. Fantastic. And whatever you choose to do, whether it's us or another university or a different program, really take the opportunity to do it while you can. It's a slow burn going for an MBA. It can take years to think about it and take the action, but I found it life-changing, completely life-changing for me. Ended up moving out of where I was in the civil service, progressing there anyway, and then moving out and doing a PhD because just for the joy of it, and now I do a lot of research. So it's, I think I'm a good example of life-changing effects of having an MBA.
Yeah, everybody tends to use the term transformational for MBA programs,
Absolutely.
which I think, yeah, that's
absolutely, true. Yeah. And we meet a lot with the alumni, and the alumni will tell you, and they're marvellous, and they'll tell you what it's done for them, because a lot of industries don't have sort of much management within the lower levels of the organisation. So it's the chicken and egg. So you need the MBA to actually get onto that next run. So that's, if anybody's got any questions about that, do ask, because we do understand certain industries it's very difficult to have management experience because that's just not within your job remit.
Yeah.
But you have competencies that you've developed.
Right. And as far as I know, a lot of big companies, the board of directors and the C-suite level, most of them does have an MBA in hand.
It's the language. I notice all the time now, if we have somebody talking to us who comes to the business school or you're in a meeting, you can tell who's got an MBA because there's a language, you learn a language. I was very skeptical when I was doing my MBA. I thought, how does this research, so Kelly was talking about the literature. So I thought, how does this literature stuff help me? Because we're used to doing reports, company reports anyway. So how does that help? But actually that literature is actually what we call empirical research from companies. And so you've got years and years and years of data that informs it. So when you bring that into a problem in work, the findings you find are phenomenal. So for my dissertation, when I was looking at eliminating child poverty, because I was working on a gender between two agencies in this area, and it failed, generally failed. I was looking at the sort of systemic failure through policy delivery. So you've got the strategic level, but also the grassroots where you're trying to make things happen. And finding out why in other areas, in healthcare, why it had failed, helped me understand why it failed in the area I was working, the Department of Work and Pensions. So yeah, transformational.
Yes. And any other questions that come in? Currently we don't. And I guess if you guys still have any more questions later on, just feel free to reach out to the SIM inquiry hotlines. You can chat us up on the website or email us or call us. We operate from Monday to Saturdays. And thank you so much, Kelly and Ross, for your time and to deliver a fantastic session for all of us, the masterclass and the program briefing. And thank you everyone for taking your Saturday afternoon with us. And I hope everyone will have a wonderful weekend.
Yes, and thank you, June. You've been a wonderful compare host.
Right, thank
like
you.
The BBC. And thank you, Kelly. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Take care,
everyone.
everyone.
Yes, have a good weekend. Bye-bye.